Step into a world where love defies society's narrow expectations and inner strength transforms every obstacle into opportunity. In this compelling tale of passion, resilience, and self-discovery, we follow Andrew and Samantha as they challenge the status quo and rise above relentless judgment. Their journey, marked by heartache and triumph alike, reminds us that true worth is defined not by the opinions of others, but by the authenticity of one's own soul. If this story ignites your spirit and inspires you to embrace your true self, don't forget to subscribe for more empowering narratives that celebrate the courage to be different. Now, let the story begin. Andrew Carroll had always been the embodiment of perfection in the eyes of the elite. Tall, with striking blue eyes and an effortless charm, he had built a reputation as a self-made millionaire before the age of 30. The halls of his luxurious office echoed with whispers of his successes. His name graced the pages of business magazines, and his every move was scrutinized by a social circle that prided itself on exclusivity. Yet behind the shimmering facade of wealth and achievement, Andrew's heart harbored a secret longing, a yearning for a love that transcended appearances and pedigree. When he first met Samantha Evans at a charity event, there was an undeniable spark. Unlike the models and socialites that frequented his usual circles, Samantha radiated a warmth and authenticity that captivated him immediately. Samantha, a full-figured black woman with soulful eyes and a confident stride, had risen from humble beginnings. Raised in a modest neighborhood by a resilient single mother, she had forged her own path as a certified nutritionist and wellness advocate. Her small business, built on years of dedication and hard work, was a testament to her perseverance and commitment to bettering the lives of those around her. So when Andrew announced his engagement to Samantha, it sent shockwaves through his world. His friends and family, accustomed to a certain look and lifestyle, could hardly believe what they were hearing. At an elegant dinner party, while the clink of fine china masked the murmurs of disbelief, his mother, Eleanor, voiced her concerns in measured tones. "Andrew, darling, think about the image you're projecting. A marriage isn't solely about love. It's about legacy, compatibility, and upholding the standards we've built over generations." Her words, dripping with condescension, were met with a mix of disapproving glances and hushed snickers among his peers. Yet Andrew remained unwavering. In the quiet of his penthouse apartment that evening, he sat in deep reflection. The glowing cityscape outside was a reminder of his achievements, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Samantha. The way her laugh filled a room, the compassionate fire in her eyes, and the ease with which she made him feel whole. Despite knowing that his decision would trigger ridicule and scorn among those who believed they had him all figured out, he found solace in the strength of their connection. Love, he believed, was far more potent than the shallow judgments of society. Samantha, for her part, embraced the engagement with cautious optimism. Though aware of the prejudices that would soon rear their ugly heads, she resolved to remain true to herself. In the days following the announcement, while media outlets and social networks buzzed with controversy, she found moments of quiet joy in the simple act of planning a future with someone who genuinely appreciated her for who she was. For Andrew, the engagement was not a leap into the unknown. It was the culmination of a search for authenticity in a world built on superficial expectations. Thus, as the news of their engagement spread like wildfire, it became clear that Andrew and Samantha's union was destined to be a battleground of societal expectations and personal convictions. In the shimmering glow of a world that prized image over substance, their love would be tested by the bitter taste of judgment. And yet, in that very challenge, a deeper, transformative story was about to unfold. As the days turned into weeks after the engagement announcement, the true test of Andrew and Samantha's resolve began. Invitations for engagement parties and public events started arriving, and with them, an undercurrent of skepticism and quiet disdain that permeated every interaction. Samantha's first appearance alongside Andrew at a high-profile charity gala was a moment etched in memory. As they entered the grand hall, adorned with crystal chandeliers and opulent decorations, the whispers began immediately. Guests exchanged furtive glances, their expressions a mixture of surprise and disapproval. At one table, an older gentleman muttered to his companion, "Is this really the man we thought we knew?" Meanwhile, A group of women huddled near the entrance, their conversation laced with snide remarks about how Samantha's presence disrupted an image they had long held dear. Even Andrew's inner circle, once a haven of unqualified admiration, now seemed to bristle with uncertainty. His closest business partner, usually a pillar of confidence, leaned in during a quiet moment and remarked, "She's so different from the women you usually surround yourself with." The social media realm proved no less unforgiving. In the digital aftermath of the announcement, online forums and comment sections exploded with vitriolic debates and crude jokes. Every post, every comment, echoed the same refrain: disbelief, derision, and an unspoken accusation that Samantha had somehow manipulated Andrew's success. Samantha's image, meticulously crafted through years of hard work, was suddenly reduced to a caricature in the minds of those who refused to accept her on her own merits. Within the confines of Andrew's familial gatherings, the pressure was even more acute. Eleanor, ever the guardian of tradition, made her discontent clear in every polite but pointed conversation. Over a formal dinner at the family estate, she remarked in a hushed tone to her husband, "This marriage is a risk. We've worked so hard to maintain our status. Can you really afford to disrupt that balance?" Her words, though veiled in concern, stung deeply. Even Richard, Andrew's father, managed only a tepid greeting whenever Samantha was introduced at events, a handshake that was more formal than heartfelt. For Samantha, each public appearance became a lesson in resilience. The slightest sideways glance or dismissive comment weighed heavily on her spirit. In quiet moments away from the scrutinizing eyes, she would retreat to the solitude of her apartment, questioning if the cost of love was worth the constant barrage of judgment. Yet, amidst the isolation, she found strength in memories of her own journey. She recalled long nights of study and determination when she built her nutrition business from the ground up, battling obstacles that no one else could see. Andrew, witnessing the relentless scrutiny and the toll it took on Samantha, found himself increasingly defensive. His heart burned with the need to shield her from a world that refused to see the truth. In private conversations, he reassured her that their love was stronger than any public opinion. "They don't know us," he would say, his voice firm yet tender. "We define our own worth. Together, we can rise above this shallow judgment." Yet even as he spoke these words, the seeds of doubt had already been sown in the hearts of those closest to him. The murmurs of the elite, the stares laden with disbelief, and the cruel digital commentary were constant reminders that acceptance was a prize yet to be won. And so, in that charged atmosphere of expectation and prejudice, the first true test of their union had begun, a battle between the authenticity of love and the corrosive power of societal judgment. The pressure on Andrew and Samantha was mounting steadily, and cracks began to show beneath the facade of their seemingly unshakable union. As wedding plans accelerated and social events multiplied, the couple found themselves grappling with a relentless tide of disapproval and subtle cruelty. In the quiet moments away from the prying eyes of high society, Samantha's inner world became a battleground of conflicting emotions. Every public outing was a lesson in endurance. At a lavish dinner hosted by one of Andrew's influential business partners, Samantha felt the weight of every sideways glance and every whispered comment. A well-dressed guest, feigning interest in conversation, remarked in an overly condescending tone, "You must have worked incredibly hard to be here tonight." The comment, wrapped in the guise of polite civility, left a lingering sting that echoed long after the conversation ended. Such moments chipped away at her confidence, dredging up old insecurities and memories of a lifetime spent fighting against stereotypes. Back home, in the quiet of their modern apartment, Andrew would find Samantha seated by the window, eyes fixed on the city lights below. In these moments, the noise of the world receded, and what remained was a painful introspection. "Do they see me?" she would wonder silently, questioning if her worth was being measured solely by a standard she could never meet. The relentless judgment was not just external. It began to seep into her self-perception, causing her to doubt the very qualities that had once made her strong and independent. Andrew, too, was forced to confront the reality that the world they had chosen to share was one where superficiality reigned. He spent long nights pacing the marble floors of their living room, torn between defending Samantha and trying to shield her from the cruelty of opinions that seemed designed to tear them apart. "We can't let them break us," he would whisper to himself, a mantra that belied his inner turmoil. Yet, each confrontation, every public slight, seemed to add a new layer of tension to an already fragile situation. Amid the increasing hostility from the elite social circles, the couple's private moments grew both more tender and more fraught. Andrew's reassurances, though sincere, sometimes fell short of bridging the gap between his world and Samantha's bruised spirit. "They don't define us," he would say, holding her close as if to physically ward off the negativity. But in the quiet aftermath of these declarations, when the echoes of disapproving laughter haunted the corners of the night, Samantha couldn't help but wonder if love alone was enough to withstand the barrage of judgment. It was during one of these solitary evenings that Samantha resolved to reclaim her identity. After a particularly harsh remark at a networking event, one that had reduced her to tears in the privacy of a hotel suite, she decided that the person reflected in the mirror must no longer be defined by the venomous opinions of others. She began to document her feelings in a leather-bound journal, pouring out the pain, anger, and determination that had been building inside her. Every word became a declaration, a promise to herself that she would no longer allow the world's narrow standards to dictate her worth. This turning point did not erase the hurt, but it sparked a quiet revolution within Samantha. The cracks in her armor began to mend as she focused on rediscovering the fierce, unyielding spirit that had carried her through so many obstacles. In those private moments of reflection, the whispers of judgment were gradually replaced by the gentle, persistent voice of self-affirmation. Though the path ahead remained fraught with challenges, Samantha started to believe that she could redefine the narrative, one where her identity was built not on the opinions of others, but on her own truth. The day of the wedding arrived amid a storm of anticipation and palpable tension, a day that was meant to celebrate love, but instead unfolded as a battleground of social expectations and personal defiance. The venue was a sprawling estate draped in elegance, with manicured gardens, ornate chandeliers, and meticulously arranged floral displays. Yet, beneath the surface of opulence, an undercurrent of skepticism and disdain lurked. As guests began to arrive, the atmosphere was anything but celebratory. The crowd was a mix of those who had come out of genuine affection for Andrew and those who had been compelled by duty to witness the event. Samantha's entrance, long awaited with equal parts excitement and apprehension, was met with a series of muted reactions. Her graceful walk down the aisle was punctuated by a symphony of polite claps and curt smiles, none of which could mask the whispers that threaded through the audience. The well-heeled attendees exchanged furtive glances, their eyes betraying a disapproval that was impossible to ignore. Andrew stood at the altar with a determined, yet pained expression, his eyes fixed on the woman approaching him. In that moment, his heart swelled with both love and sorrow. Love for the person who had become his beacon of authenticity, and sorrow for the societal prejudices that sought to diminish her radiance. The ceremony unfolded with a sense of formality, each word of the vows carefully measured, yet laden with unspoken defiance. When Andrew spoke of choosing love over appearances, his voice trembled with the weight of 1,000 silent battles fought against a world that refused to accept difference. In the moments following the exchange of vows, the reception began, and the true nature of the day became undeniable. As guests mingled, the tension was palpable. Conversation stalled when Samantha approached, and the usual flow of laughter was replaced by tight-lipped smiles and awkward silences. Every detail of the celebration, from the tastefully arranged buffet to the soft strains of a string quartet, was overshadowed by the unspoken judgment that permeated the air. Samantha, adorned in a dress that was both stunning and defiant, felt as if she were on display, an exhibit to be scrutinized and critiqued. At one point, while posing for photographs near a lavish fountain, a group of attendees huddled together and muttered about how she did not fit in with the traditional elegance of the event. Their words, though delivered in hushed tones, reverberated in her ears long after the moment had passed. Yet, even as the wedding day unfolded with all its painful realities, Samantha's inner strength shone through. In a quiet corner of the reception hall, away from the prying eyes of those who disapproved, she found solace in Andrew's unwavering presence. His hand in hers was a silent vow of support, a promise that together they would rise above the shallow judgments of a society that valued appearance over substance. "Today is ours," Andrew whispered, his voice a gentle rebellion against the forces arrayed against them. That night, as the reception drew to a close and the final notes of the music faded into the darkness, Samantha sat alone on a terrace overlooking the estate's gardens. The stars above seemed indifferent to the human dramas unfolding below, yet in their distant light, she found a quiet reminder that beauty existed in every form. In that solitary moment, she vowed that her life would no longer be defined by the narrow confines of societal expectation. Her wedding day, filled with tension and defiance, would mark not the end of her struggles, but the beginning of a journey toward reclaiming her worth and rewriting the narrative of her life. In the days that followed the wedding, the reverberations of that fateful day continued to echo through Andrew and Samantha's lives. The reception was over, the vows had been spoken, and yet, the aftermath brought its own set of challenges. The immediate period following the nuptials was characterized by an unyielding scrutiny from every corner of their social world, one where approval was scarce and judgment was a constant companion. Andrew's family, long steeped in tradition and exclusivity, maintained a cool distance. Eleanor's disapproval remained as palpable as ever, her interactions with Samantha curt and formal, as if every greeting were a reminder of an unbridgeable chasm. Richard, though less overtly critical, exuded a silent disapproval that left Samantha feeling like an interloper in a world she had no desire to be part of. Even those who had once shown genuine warmth now regarded her with a reserved politeness that offered little comfort. At work, Andrew faced a different kind of challenge. His peers in the business world, once staunch supporters of his meteoric rise, now whispered behind closed doors, questioning his judgment and speculating about the motives behind his personal choices. The same circles that once lauded his success were now quick to attribute any minor setback to the perceived distraction of his unconventional marriage. Despite his continued achievements, every triumph was tainted by a pervasive doubt. Was Samantha merely a fleeting fancy, a disruption in the carefully curated narrative of his life? For Samantha, the period following the wedding was a time of profound introspection and silent struggle. Her work as a nutritionist and wellness advocate had always been a source of pride, a testament to her relentless determination to build a better life from nothing. Yet, in the glare of public scrutiny, her accomplishments were minimized, overshadowed by the stereotypes that had dogged her since childhood. Invitations to events were met with hesitancy, and every interaction seemed laced with an undercurrent of patronizing pity. Late at night, when the world outside was quiet, Samantha would revisit the painful moments of the wedding, the forced smiles, the cold indifference, and the whispers that followed her every step. In the solitude of these nights, her thoughts would turn inward, questioning whether love could truly conquer the entrenched prejudices that threatened to smother her spirit. Yet, even as the doubts loomed large, there was an ember of defiance burning deep within her, a determination that refused to be extinguished by the opinions of those who had never truly known her. Andrew, witnessing the toll that the aftermath was taking on Samantha, redoubled his efforts to protect and console her. He organized quiet evenings away from the prying eyes of society, a weekend retreat in a secluded countryside villa where they could rediscover the intimacy that had drawn them together in the first place. In those moments of respite, Andrew reassured Samantha of his unwavering commitment, reminding her that their union was built on a foundation far stronger than the shallow judgments of others. "We're in this together," he would say, his voice resolute. "Our love is our own, and nothing they say can change that." Slowly, amid the continuing barrage of subtle slights and overt criticisms, Samantha began to forge a new understanding of herself. The aftermath of the wedding was a harsh teacher, but it also became the catalyst for her transformation. She resolved to channel her pain into purpose, to let the world see that her worth was defined not by the opinions of a few privileged voices, but by the depth of her character and the strength of her convictions. In the quiet moments of the early morning, as she sipped her tea and reflected on the events of the previous day, she vowed that her life would no longer be a reaction to others' expectations, but a deliberate act of self-affirmation and growth. Thus, while the wedding day had been marred by tension and disapproval, its aftermath set the stage for a profound personal renaissance, a turning point where Samantha's inner resolve began to outshine the darkness of judgment. In the wake of the painful aftermath, Samantha felt a stirring deep within her, a quiet, determined resolve that refused to be extinguished. The constant barrage of criticism, the isolation at family gatherings, and the relentless scrutiny in her professional sphere had taken their toll, but rather than succumb to despair, she chose to transform her anguish into a force for change. It began with small acts of rebellion against the expectations that had long confined her. One brisk autumn morning, Samantha woke up with a newfound clarity. As sunlight filtered through the lace curtains of their bedroom, she resolved that her life would no longer be defined by the narrow standards of a judgmental society. Over breakfast, while Andrew read the morning news with his usual calm demeanor, she quietly shared her decision. "I need to make changes," she said, her voice both soft and determined. "For myself." Andrew looked at her, his eyes reflecting both concern and admiration. He had seen this resolve growing inside her over the past few weeks, a fire that was slowly turning her pain into purpose. That day, Samantha set about creating a plan to reclaim her identity and reshape her destiny. She began by immersing herself in her work with renewed vigor. Long afternoons turned into evenings filled with research, planning, and strategizing. She sought out innovative approaches in nutrition and wellness, determined to elevate her business into something that was not just a side venture, but a full-fledged platform for empowerment. Her small office, once a quiet space of routine, now buzzed with the energy of a woman on a mission. Every meeting, every client interaction became an opportunity to prove that her success was earned through hard work and dedication, not by association or privilege. Outside the confines of her professional life, Samantha also made a commitment to nurture her inner strength. She enrolled in a series of personal development workshops, finding solace in communities of women who had also battled societal expectations. These sessions, often held in intimate settings, offered her both practical tools and emotional support. For the first time in years, she felt understood, surrounded by women who were reclaiming their narratives and refusing to be defined by external judgment. Andrew watched these changes with a mixture of pride and relief. He had always believed in Samantha's potential, but seeing her take control of her own story filled him with an even deeper respect. Their evenings gradually transformed from quiet dinners shadowed by tension to spirited conversations about dreams, ambitions, and the kind of future they wished to build together. With each passing day, the weight of judgment began to lift, replaced by the promise of a life defined on their own terms. In the midst of these transformations, Samantha started sharing her journey on social media, not as a plea for validation, but as a declaration of self-worth. Her posts, candid and heartfelt, resonated with countless others who had felt marginalized or diminished by society's expectations. The response was overwhelming. Messages of encouragement, gratitude, and solidarity flooded in, creating a network of support that further solidified her resolve. No longer would she allow the negativity of a few to dictate her self-esteem. This period of transformation was not without its challenges. There were moments when the echoes of past criticisms threatened to resurface. A harsh comment in an online forum, a dismissive remark at a business meeting. But Samantha met them with quiet determination. She reminded herself that every setback was a stepping stone, every criticism an opportunity to prove her resilience. The new resolve that had taken root within her was not a temporary reaction. It was a profound commitment to a life of authenticity and empowerment. By the end of this transformative phase, Samantha had not only redefined her career, but also rebuilt her inner world. The woman who once doubted her every move now stood with a renewed sense of purpose. A woman who was ready to face the world head-on, unburdened by the expectations of others. And as she looked into Andrew's eyes each night, she found solace in the knowledge that together, they were crafting a legacy of love and strength that would endure far beyond the judgments of those who had once tried to hold them back. In the months that followed her renewed resolve, Samantha embarked on a journey of transformation that touched every facet of her life. The quiet determination that had taken root in her heart blossomed into tangible changes, both in her career and her personal demeanor. With each passing day, she shed the remnants of doubt and stepped confidently into a role she had long envisioned for herself. At work, Samantha began a complete overhaul of her nutrition and wellness business. No longer content to simply maintain the status quo, she introduced innovative programs that combined cutting-edge research with practical, everyday advice. Late nights were spent poring over scientific journals and formulating new strategies to help her clients achieve holistic health. Her small office soon transformed into a dynamic hub of creativity and productivity. With the help of a few trusted colleagues, she launched a series of interactive webinars and online workshops, reaching out to audiences who had previously felt alienated by mainstream wellness culture. Her transformation wasn't confined to the professional realm. Samantha began to take deliberate steps to care for herself, physically, emotionally, and mentally. She adopted a routine of morning yoga and meditation, practices that brought her both calm and clarity. These rituals not only improved her well-being, but also allowed her to center her thoughts on what truly mattered. The woman who once felt overwhelmed by criticism now exuded an aura of quiet confidence that was impossible to ignore. Word of Samantha's transformation spread beyond her immediate circles. Invitations to speak at local health fairs and community events started to appear, and her social media presence grew exponentially. The once muted voice of a woman who had been silenced by societal judgment now rang clear with authenticity. Followers and clients alike began to see her not just as a nutritionist, but as a role model, someone who had turned adversity into opportunity and who inspired others to take control of their own narratives. Andrew watched these changes with a mixture of admiration and relief. The transformation he had long hoped to see in Samantha was now unfolding before his eyes. Their conversations became more vibrant, filled with shared dreams and plans for a future that promised both personal fulfillment and professional success. Together, they began to reimagine their lives, no longer bound by the limitations of societal expectations, but propelled by the belief that true success was measured by inner strength and authenticity. In her new role as a leader, Samantha also began to mentor young women who were struggling with similar issues of self-worth and identity. She organized small group sessions, where stories were shared and practical advice was exchanged. These gatherings became a safe space for empowerment, a counterpoint to the isolation she had once felt in the face of relentless judgment. The sense of community that emerged was both heartwarming and transformative, reaffirming her belief that change was not only possible but inevitable. By the time the season turned and summer's warmth enveloped the city, Samantha had emerged as a force to be reckoned with. Her physical transformation, marked by a newfound poise and vitality, was mirrored by an inner metamorphosis. No longer did she allow the echoes of past criticisms to hold her back. Instead, she embraced every challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger. With each day, her business flourished, her reputation as an innovator in the wellness industry solidified, and her voice, once timid and uncertain, became a beacon for all those who had ever felt marginalized. In the end, Samantha's transformation was more than just a change in appearance or career trajectory. It was a profound reawakening of her spirit. And as she looked back on the turbulent path that had led her here, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. The very judgment that had once threatened to break her had become the catalyst for her greatest triumph. Just as Samantha's personal transformation was gaining momentum, a turning point arrived that would forever alter the narrative of her life. One crisp morning, as she sifted through her overflowing email inbox, a subject line caught her attention: "Your story deserves to be heard." The sender was an established journalist known for highlighting stories of resilience and change. Intrigued and a bit apprehensive, Samantha opened the message and read the invitation to share her journey in a feature article. The idea of publicly recounting the hardships she had endured, of revealing the intimate details of the judgment, the isolation, and the moments when she had nearly crumbled, filled her with a mix of trepidation and resolve. This was not merely a chance for publicity. It was an opportunity to break down the barriers that had long confined her identity to society's narrow definitions. She agreed to the interview, knowing that every word she spoke would serve as a beacon for others who had been marginalized or misunderstood. Over the next several weeks, Samantha met with the journalist in quiet cafes and sunlit meeting rooms. The sessions were long and deeply personal. She spoke of the moments when hurtful words had echoed in her mind, of nights spent questioning her worth, and of the gradual realization that the opinions of others were not the measure of her true value. Every detail was recounted with a raw honesty that surprised even her. The journalist's notepad filled with narratives of struggle and strength, of pain transformed into purpose. When the article was published, it created a stir. The media landscape, which had once been dominated by the narrative of ridicule and dismissal, was now abuzz with Samantha's story of triumph. Social media lit up with messages of support and admiration. Women from all walks of life reached out to thank her for sharing her experience, and her journey resonated deeply with those who had ever felt silenced or diminished. Critics who had once sneered at her now found themselves confronted by a powerful narrative that redefined what it meant to be successful and resilient. For Samantha, the article was more than just a personal victory. It was a declaration that she was no longer willing to be confined by others' limited expectations. The once unyielding walls of prejudice began to crumble as people saw her in a new light, not as an anomaly, but as a leader forging her own path. Invitations to speak at conferences, appear on television panels, and contribute to major publications started to pour in. Every opportunity further cemented her status as a voice of change in an industry that desperately needed it. Amid this whirlwind of recognition, Andrew remained her steadfast pillar. His pride in her achievements was evident in every encouraging word, every quiet smile he shared when she spoke of her experiences. Together, they began to envision a future where their love story would serve as a testament to the power of authenticity and determination, where barriers would be broken and stereotypes forever challenged. That transformative interview marked the beginning of a new chapter in Samantha's life. The painful memories of judgment were no longer shackles, but stepping stones on the path to her empowerment. As the world began to take notice, Samantha realized that the very barriers that once confined her had now become the foundation upon which she would build a legacy of hope and inspiration for generations to come. In the wake of the media breakthrough, Samantha's journey took on an entirely new dimension. Her story, once a deeply personal account of pain and perseverance, had evolved into a rallying cry for change, a testament to the transformative power of self-acceptance and resilience. The newfound public attention provided her with a platform she had never dreamed of, and she seized the opportunity to expand her impact far beyond her immediate circle. Soon, invitations began to flow in from organizations, community groups, and even influential industry leaders who wanted to collaborate with her. One of the most pivotal moments came when a renowned health and wellness conference extended an invitation for her to be a guest speaker. The event was slated to attract some of the brightest minds in the industry, as well as a large audience eager to learn from someone who had turned adversity into triumph. For Samantha, accepting the invitation was both an affirmation of her progress and a bold statement against the prejudices that had long sought to confine her. As she prepared for the conference, Samantha immersed herself in every detail of her craft. She refined her research, polished her message, and practiced her delivery until her voice resonated with unwavering confidence. At the same time, she continued to nurture her online platform, a vibrant community of followers who found strength in her words and inspiration in her journey. Her interactive programs, webinars, and mentorship sessions evolved into a comprehensive movement aimed at empowering women who had ever felt marginalized or underestimated. The conference day arrived with a palpable sense of anticipation. Samantha stepped onto the stage to an audience that was eager, expectant, and, above all, ready to listen. As she began to speak, her voice carried the weight of her experiences. The echoes of every painful comment transformed into a call for change. She spoke of societal standards, of the dehumanizing effect of judgment, and of the importance of reclaiming one's own narrative. Her words, filled with passion and clarity, resonated deeply with every person in the hall. For the first time in a long while, the audience saw Samantha not as a subject of ridicule or pity, but as a leader, a woman who had taken control of her destiny and was now paving the way for others to do the same. Her story ignited conversations, sparked debates, and most importantly, inspired action. In the days following the conference, messages of gratitude and admiration poured in. Women credited her with helping them find the courage to pursue their own dreams, while industry experts acknowledged her unique perspective in a field that was all too often dominated by conventional ideals. In that moment of collective recognition, Samantha understood that her rise as a leader was not about proving anyone wrong. It was about affirming the truth that her journey was her own and that she had the power to shape her future. The transformation from a woman under siege by judgment to a visionary leader was complete, and she embraced it with humility and pride. The path ahead, though still fraught with challenges, now shone with the promise of a legacy built on authenticity, perseverance, and the unwavering belief that every individual deserves to be seen and celebrated for who they truly are. Emboldened by her growing influence, Samantha's next chapter was defined by her commitment to speaking her truth on a grander stage. At a series of high-profile events and televised panels, she became the voice for those who had been silenced by society's rigid standards. One crisp evening, as she prepared backstage for a live panel discussion, Samantha took a deep breath and reflected on the arduous journey that had brought her here. Every painful remark, every moment of self-doubt, had paved the way for the powerful message she was about to deliver. When she finally stepped onto the stage, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The audience, a blend of skeptics and supporters, watched intently as Samantha began to speak. Her words were measured yet impassioned, carrying the weight of lived experience and hard-won wisdom. She recounted the challenges of being judged solely on appearance, of feeling like an outsider in a world that prized conformity over individuality. With clarity and conviction, she dismantled the narrative that had once been used to keep her down, replacing it with a call for compassion, understanding, and self-empowerment. Throughout her speech, Samantha wove in personal anecdotes, moments of vulnerability and triumph that highlighted the transformative power of choosing one's own path. Her voice, steady and resolute, resonated with every listener. Even those in the audience who had once been complicit in the whispers of judgment found themselves reconsidering their long-held beliefs. In that moment, Samantha wasn't just defending herself. She was challenging an entire culture that measured worth by superficial standards. After her address, the applause was not just polite. It was a resounding affirmation that her words had reached deep into the hearts of many. Andrew, watching from the sidelines, felt a swell of pride. He knew that this was the moment Samantha had been preparing for all along. The moment when she would stand tall and redefine what it meant to be seen, heard, and respected. In the days and weeks that followed, invitations to share her story grew, and her influence spread beyond the confines of the wellness community into mainstream discussions about beauty, worth, and identity. Samantha's voice had become a clarion call for change, a force that commanded respect not through anger or bitterness, but through the gentle power of truth and authenticity. Every interview, every public appearance reinforced the idea that true beauty and strength lie in embracing one's own identity, regardless of societal expectations. Her message, simple yet profound, was that every person has the right to define themselves, free from the constraints of judgment or prejudice. And as she continued to speak, her words lit the path for countless others, urging them to find the courage to be unapologetically themselves. Even as Samantha's influence soared, the specter of doubt still lingered among some of those who had once dismissed her. At a charity gala held in one of the city's grandest ballrooms, an encounter with a familiar face brought those old wounds into stark focus. A woman, known in the circles of high society for her previous cruel remarks and condescending attitude, approached Samantha with a saccharine smile. "You've really changed," she said, her tone dripping with insincerity. "It's inspiring to see how far you've come. You must feel so lucky." Samantha regarded the woman coolly, her eyes reflecting both the strength of her convictions and the memory of past hurts. "I don't believe in luck," she replied evenly. "Just hard work and the determination to define myself on my own terms." The remark hung in the air, a subtle rebuke that left the woman momentarily speechless. Around them, the gala's opulent decor and polite conversation resumed, But the encounter had ignited a quiet storm within Samantha, a final reckoning with the voices of doubt that had once attempted to diminish her. In the days that followed, Samantha encountered more of those who had been part of her past, the former allies who had now become reluctant bystanders. At business luncheons and social mixers, she met individuals who attempted to rewrite their history with her, as if by offering vague apologies or forced compliments they could erase the cruelty of their previous judgments. Yet, with every interaction, Samantha's poise and quiet resolve sent a clear message. Her worth was not subject to their validation. She had built her life on the foundation of her own dreams and hard work, and no amount of contrived niceties could alter that truth. Andrew watched these encounters with a gentle protectiveness, his admiration for Samantha growing with each display of unwavering strength. He saw how the very people who had once scoffed at her now clung to her every word, hoping to bask in the reflected glow of her success. But Samantha had long since learned that true victory was not measured by the grudging respect of others, but by the inner peace that came from knowing one's own value. At a quiet dinner one evening, as the conversation turned to the challenges of maintaining authenticity in a judgmental world, Samantha spoke candidly about her experiences. "I've spent so much of my life trying to prove myself," she confessed softly, "not to the world, but to those who never truly believed in me. Now, I realize that I never needed their approval in the first place." Her words, spoken with both vulnerability and resolve, resonated deeply with Andrew and a few close friends who had borne witness to her journey. In that moment, it was clear that Samantha had transcended the need for validation from anyone but herself. Her resolve was further reinforced when a follow-up conversation with a former critic, now seemingly contrite, reminded her that the past was immutable. "I never doubted you," the critic had insisted, as if trying to erase the harshness of her earlier words. Samantha's measured response was simple and final. "I never needed your approval then, and I don't need it now." That was the culmination of years of inner work, a declaration that her identity was hers alone to define. In the final chapter of this arduous journey, Samantha found herself standing at the threshold of a new era, a moment of ultimate victory not defined by the regrets of others, but by the quiet triumph of self-acceptance. At a celebratory dinner held in honor of her burgeoning achievements, the room was filled with faces that once had turned away in judgment and now looked on with tentative admiration. Andrew stood by her side, his expression a blend of pride and gentle reassurance, as the evening unfolded with warmth and a renewed sense of community. The air was alive with murmurs of recognition, as old adversaries and newfound allies alike shared stories of change and growth. One by one, those who had once doubted Samantha's worth approached her, not with contrition, but with a sincere curiosity about the woman who had redefined success on her own terms. Even Eleanor, whose earlier disapproval had seemed unyielding, offered a quiet nod of acceptance, a small but significant gesture that spoke volumes. As the night deepened and the conversations turned reflective, Samantha took a moment to address the gathered guests. Standing before them with a calm yet commanding presence, she spoke of her journey, a journey marked by pain, perseverance, and ultimately, a profound transformation. "I have learned that my worth is not determined by the approval of others," she declared, her voice steady and resolute. "I have built my life on the foundations of hard work, passion, and an unyielding commitment to my truth. Tonight is not about proving anyone wrong. It is about celebrating the freedom to be myself." Her words resonated like a gentle revolution. In that moment, it became clear that the ultimate victory was not in the validation of the critics or the reluctant praise of old friends, but in the quiet certainty that she was enough, exactly as she was. The room, once filled with the echoes of doubt and dismissiveness, now buzzed with a renewed energy, a collective recognition that true success lies in the authenticity of one's journey. Andrew stepped forward, his hand finding hers as if to silently affirm the bond they had forged in the crucible of judgment and transformation. "You have always been remarkable," he said softly, his eyes reflecting the depth of his admiration. "I've never doubted you, not for a moment." Their exchange, simple yet powerful, underscored the truth that love, when built on mutual respect and unwavering belief, could overcome even the harshest of judgments. In the final hours of that evening, as the celebrations wound down and the guests began to depart, Samantha felt a quiet sense of finality settle over her. The voices that had once whispered insults and doubts had grown silent, replaced by the steady rhythm of her own heartbeat, a reminder that her journey was hers alone. She realized that every trial, every moment of self-doubt, had been a necessary step on the path to self-discovery. And in that truth, she found peace. As she and Andrew stepped out into the cool night air, hand in hand, Samantha looked up at the starlit sky. In that vast expanse, she saw not the judgment of a narrow world, but the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led her to a place of unshakable confidence and inner freedom. In the quiet of that moment, she smiled, content in the knowledge that her worth was defined not by the voices of others, but by the unwavering belief in her own truth. The ultimate victory was not measured by the regret of those who once doubted her, but by the quiet triumph of a woman who had learned that she never needed anyone's approval to be whole. And as she embraced the future with Andrew by her side, Samantha knew that her story, a story of resilience, transformation, and unyielding authenticity, was only just beginning. Thank you so much for watching our story unfold. If you enjoyed this journey of transformation and resilience, please give us a like, subscribe for more inspiring narratives, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world to us.